So one worry I have is that some of these discourses kind of reconsolidate or re-strengthen those sociological notions, even as they try to alter them. Now, when an identification takes form as speech, call me this, or I want to be called by the following name, then I think something else has taken place. There's a kind of discursive articulation of identification. And at that point, there's a question of being recognized in language, and a further claim that through being recognized in language, social reality will be altered. So it's within the context of addressing another with the request to be called by a different name and to be referred to through another set of pronouns that I think we can understand a bid to remake social reality by altering the terms of recognition by which the social reality of gender is constituted, but also a very specific bid to another human being, a petition to another human being, to offer recognition or to offer some kind of acknowledgement of a lived psychic reality. So at the moment when a question is formed or a demand is made, please refer to me from now on as John or Eric or Sean. This is a moment, I think, in which a certain fear and shame is transformed into an explicit bid or petition for recognition. And what I find interesting here is that in the slam poetry event, and indeed in the negotiation of all of these terms of identity or of self-description, there was a bid or a petition to another. The poetry actually has this open, direct address, this mode of it functions as a mode of address. There must be a you who has to give recognition, and there's an appeal, sometimes an angry appeal, to give recognition. So even the fuck you Judith Butler could be understood as part of that, of a petition for recognition, even when one thought that there could be no recognition. So what I want to suggest here is that, perhaps we don't need to think about psychological reality as separate from sociological fact, that by thinking about the mode of address as actually important to the phenomenon itself, right? That transsexuality invariably involves a mode of being addressed and a mode of address, right? Even if it's a diagnosis, it's a mode of address. Even if it's a political claim or legal claim, it's a mode of address to some authority. Even if it's a mode of resistance to a psychiatric diagnostic manual, don't call me by that name. There is some other, some institution, some discourse that's being appealed to or petitioned. And I wonder whether we can actually, I wonder about those efforts to think about transsexuality as a purely psychic phenomenon, or as a purely sociological phenomenon, without seeing that there is this discursive mode of address that is essential to its social constitution. Okay, so that's my kind of brief point. And what I also want to say is that I think this idea of petitioning another or a mode of address makes the phenomenon relational. Right? It's about a relation to a set of others, and it's about how others relate to oneself. And this is different, I think, from those ego psychology frameworks that would say, oh, transsexuality involves the repudiation of basic impulses of the following kind, or it involves the repudiation of the mother, or the repudiation of the father, or the repudiation, right, as if there's some subterfuge, psychic negation that explains the phenomenon. I don't think we actually understand the phenomenon if we don't understand it as relational. We can still actually have a psychoanalytic point of view, by the way, but it would be one that actually works with the relationality of the petition rather than a kind of ego psychology orientation. So, and it also, I think, moves us away from the idea that, oh, here's a subject with certain attributes or characteristics. Actually, here's a subject in play, as it were, whose desire, And indeed there's a desire in transsexuality whose desire is also taking form through certain kinds of discursive and gestural means. And it doesn't have to be verbal, right? It can be precisely as I walk or as I appear, make room for me in the world as someone who walks and appears or dresses or lives in this way. There's a certain kind of implicit petition that is made even by the body in its walk. Like, let this be a body who can walk down the street safely. Here I am on the bus. Do I get a seat or not? Here I am in the doctor's office. I mean, I gave this talk once in front of some psychoanalysts in New York, and one psychoanalyst got up afterwards and said, well, I got a call, someone made an appointment with me, and they said their name was Marie, and so I made an appointment, and Marie came to the waiting room, and I walk out, and I see a man sitting there, so I figure Marie has not arrived, and that this person is waiting for my colleague with whom I share a waiting room. And so she starts to turn around, and the man stands up and says, I'm Marie. And she turns around, and she actually explains this to me, that she, Marie, held out her hand to shake the hand of the analyst. Now, of course, contact is a tricky thing in psychoanalysis. You're not really supposed to have it. In New York, you can sometimes have it. In California, you can sometimes have it. But it wasn't just the professional problem of shaking hands. It was that she actually felt repulsion at that moment. She recoiled. She didn't want to touch this person's hand. She found it really hard. Okay, so she's a psychoanalyst, so she reflected on this fact, and she came up with the idea that she actually felt a kind of anger that this man was calling himself a woman because he had stolen her femininity from her. So he'd stolen it, really? And but she had felt that. She had felt that there was only room for one woman in the room. And that if she worked with this person, that she would feel that her own femininity was displaced by this person. She felt anger, but she also felt some revulsion that this could happen. She wanted her femininity to be natural, to belong to her body in some way. And I said, well, I hope you referred this person to someone else. And I gather she did, which is good. But it was an interesting moment, and a peculiar one in which a certain kind of counter-transference took place. In a sense, Marie said, can you take me? Can you accept me? And this woman said, no, not quite. No, not quite. I can't enter into that. Right. Now, okay, so what do I want to really say?
Can I ask you a quick thing?
Yes.
Do you not think, well, maybe we shouldn't bring the camera.
Go ahead.
Well, you said earlier that you didn't really want to get into this, but this assessment of the mother's statement to the child who professes a different sexuality is that the mother says you're going to be entering situations of pain, isn't necessarily a threat on the part of the mother, but maybe an inability for the mother to understand the world of the child on one part, but not necessarily threatening the child, but being afraid on behalf of the child for exactly this kind of a situation where they're projecting themselves as the subject elsewhere,
yes,
not able to accept
yes,
the situation.
I think that's right. I think that's right. But even if we accept your example that the mother is, or the father is, or the whatever other parent there is, says, I'm worried about you, this is going to be a painful life,